Traditional forms of warfare characterized by soldiers, rifles, and large-scale destruction are becoming increasingly outdated, and with advancements in technology, particularly in drone warfare and cyber attacks, the nature of conflict has evolved. However, a more subtle and potentially more powerful form of warfare is emerging: economic tariff tax wars. In this new era of conflict, nations will likely compete not through the use of military force, but through the strategic manipulation of economic systems, tariffs, taxes, sanctions, and trade policies. This shift could fundamentally redefine the concept of warfare. The evolution of warfare. Historically, war has been synonymous with physical combat. Soldiers facing off on the battlefield, weapons like rifles, tanks, and fighter jets used to overpower opponents. However, these methods have begun to lose their relevance in a world that is increasingly interconnected through global trade, digital communication, and economic dependencies. The introduction of unmanned drones and AI-driven combat technologies has already reduced the direct involvement of soldiers, making the traditional military more obsolete in many situations. In fact, the concept of traditional war itself may be seen as old-fashioned, almost akin to a chicken fight, a method of conflict that no longer matches the complexities of modern geopolitics. The rise of economic warfare. In place of traditional combat, a new form of conflict is emerging: economic warfare. Rather than sending soldiers into battle, nations will increasingly rely on economic tools such as tariffs, taxes, trade restrictions, and sanctions to exert pressure on rivals. These tools allow a country to target specific industries, disrupt global supply chains, or even destabilize an economy without ever firing a shot. For example, economic powers like the United States and China have already engaged in trade war using tariffs to influence international relations and protect domestic industries. This form of conflict relies on the idea that economic power can be just as devastating as military might. Economic warfare targets a nation's economic stability, growth, and global influence. By imposing tariffs, manipulating exchange rates, or restricting access to critical resources, countries can create significant hardship for their adversaries, making war increasingly a matter of financial maneuvering rather than military engagement. Tariffs and taxes as modern weapons. At the heart of this economic conflict is the concept of tariff tax warfare. Tariffs are taxes imposed on imported goods, which can serve as powerful tools of economic manipulation. A country can impose tariffs to limit access to its markets, increase the cost of foreign products, and protect domestic industries. This tactic has been used in various trade disputes, such as the ongoing trade war between the US and China, where both countries levied heavy tariffs on each other's goods. The impact of these tariffs extends beyond trade. They can affect inflation, employment, and global market stability. Similarly, taxes, particularly those on international transactions or critical sectors like energy, technology, or finance, can be used to disrupt the economic foundations of an adversary. These taxes might be levied on imports, financial transactions, or specific industries like tech, energy, or defense. By strategically targeting certain sectors, a nation can weaken its opponent's economy while avoiding direct military confrontation. The impact of economic warfare. The potential consequences of economic warfare are far-reaching. In a world where global supply chains are interdependent, a nation's economy can be heavily impacted by sanctions or trade restrictions. Countries heavily reliant on imports or exports might find their industries in crisis, leading to economic recessions, unemployment, and even social unrest. A rise of tariffs and taxes as primary tools of conflict could further exacerbate inequality, as weaker nations might be disproportionately impacted by such policies. In addition, the manipulation of economic systems could lead to diplomatic isolation. Nations that engage in economic warfare risk alienating themselves from the international community, particularly if their actions are seen as aggressive or unfair. However, the potential benefits of economic warfare, such as weakening a rival's economy or gaining control over critical resources, could make it an attractive option for countries seeking to assert dominance. The ethical dilemma of economic wars. While economic warfare may seem less violent than traditional forms of conflict, it carries its own ethical dilemmas. Targeting a nation's economy can lead to severe consequences for its civilian population, who may suffer the most from policies like tariffs and sanctions. Economic warfare can lead to shortages of essential goods, rising costs of living, and widespread poverty. In many ways, it becomes a form of indirect, invisible warfare where the most vulnerable in society bear the brunt of the damage. Furthermore, the use of economic sanctions and tariffs can undermine global cooperation. It risks creating a world where nations prioritize their own economic interests at the expense of international relationships and stability. In such a world, diplomacy might take a backseat to financial manipulation, resulting in a climate of distrust and division. Preparing for the future of economic warfare. As economic warfare becomes more prevalent, nations will need to develop new strategies for defense and resilience. Economic warfare will no longer be limited to military powers. Smaller nations and non-state actors can also wield economic tools to exert influence. And for countries to remain competitive and secure in this new landscape, they must focus on strengthening their economic infrastructure, diversifying their trade relationships, and fostering diplomatic relations to prevent economic isolation. Governments will also need to invest in new forms of technology to monitor and respond to economic threats, particularly in areas like cybersecurity, financial systems, and trade regulations. Additionally, nations will need to prioritize ethical considerations when engaging in economic conflict, ensuring that the welfare of civilians is not compromised by aggressive tariff or tax policies. Conclusion. The future of warfare may no longer be defined by soldiers on the battlefield, but by the strategic use of economic tools like tariffs, taxes, and sanctions. Economic tariff tax wars offer a new form of conflict, one that is subtle, indirect, but still potentially devastating. As nations navigate this new reality, they will need to embrace a new kind of diplomacy, one that emphasizes economic stability, technological advancement, and ethical considerations. The true challenge will be balancing the pursuit of national interests with the need for global cooperation in a world where the weapons of warfare are increasingly economic rather than military. So, that's the future of warfare, no longer defined by soldiers on the battlefield, but by the strategic use of economic power. What do you think? Will tariff tax wars replace traditional combat? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of conflict and technology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.